Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Change Troubleshooter podcast. And this is a first for us, as I am sat side by side with Evelyn, and we have never done this before. We're not between screens today. We're actually together in person, which is very lovely. And today we are talking about changing mindsets, as always. And today we're talking about how it's never too late, which will take us into a discussion about positive and negative mindsets and fixed and growth mindsets. But before we get into all of that detail, Evelyn, please introduce yourselves to everyone.
Yes, thank you, Nina, and thank you for the invitation to your very famous podcast, which I enjoy very much. My name is Evelyn Kortum, and the last 30 years I lived in Geneva, Switzerland, and worked at the World Health Organization. I'm an occupational health and safety specialist. And last year I left the WHO and I moved to Portugal, to Tavira, where we are now physically. And so that was a big change. And I really enjoy it here too. Very, very different from my previous 30 years, but fantastic.
And so your move here didn't just come because of work or anything. Actually, it was the end of a chapter for you and the start of you deciding what you were going to do with your new life here, which must have been quite daunting, leaving a country with so much structure and yourself a German background. Like of all things structural, to come to a culture with a lot less structure, a lot more freedom. So how did you feel about that transition?
Well, obviously very daunting in the beginning, but my family, my mother, she moved to Mallorca when she was about 40. And then my sister moved there too from Hamburg, and we were already used to moving in a way. But obviously you think like, am I going to find some friends, or how will my social life look like? What will I be doing? Will people still be interested in my academic career, and what I'm going to do with my time? So these are all the worries I think everybody would have. But I was very lucky to come here with my husband. So when you're two, you still support each other, which is a great thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. As long as you both have the same mindset, of course.
No, you don't need to have the same mindset at all. You just need to agree on some things or find consensus.
Yes. And it's so interesting that you bring in your mum right from the start, because when it comes to where our mindsets come from, they come from our whole lives of being surrounded by other people. And the people that are closest to us have an enormous impact on influencing our mindset and where our own mindset comes from. And I know some people struggle with acknowledging that, but it is a fact. And then every bit of something that we are exposed to adds to that way that we see life. So early in your life, your mum was a role model for you in somebody who was happy to move around, look at new cultures, do new things.
Yes, no, that's right. That obviously had an influence. I learned very early you can leave your place, of where you're used to. I left Hamburg in 1986, actually, and then went for 1 year to England to live there before I went back to Hamburg, and then to Geneva, and where I wanted to stay for a year, and I stayed for 30 years. So you never really know what's happening, if you're feeling well in an area, or if you have a good job, then it really has an impact. But obviously my mother did have a big influence on me, but she didn't really have a very open mindset. She was pretty much, close to her house, and she'd never learned Spanish.
Wow.
Which is like one of the things I really want to do. Like, I learned French when I lived in Geneva, because I think it's so important to discuss with people, to get what you want. And now Portuguese is really a challenge, but Fortunately, they do understand some Spanish here, so I come by with Spanish.
Or English.
Or English, yes, a lot with English.
And instead of having our usual background today, we are surrounded by this amazing artwork, which is your exciting new project.
Yes, like here is one as well.
Now tell us a bit about this.
This is my latest. Yeah, so this came about when we were in Estepona on holiday. And on the beach, you find these really scruffy things. They look scruffy in the beginning, and
Can we see the back of it so
yes,
we can see what it is?
It's like this, and it's a bark of a palm tree. And I started collecting them, and my husband said, "What are you collecting this rubbish for? And it's all dirty." And I said, "But I think the shape is so interesting." And I took it home and I washed it, and then I suddenly started painting it, and my husband was like, "Oh, this looks really nice." So I started doing more and more, and I also started painting and collecting eucalyptus bark and all sorts of things, natural things, revamping old things into new things. This has been sort of my passion, and also collecting shells on the beach and trying to make them look nice, for example. And so I developed the first project already with these pieces. You can call them masks, other people call them something else.
This project
Yeah.
has come from lots of different directions though, hasn't it? I mean, you have always been interested in living a sustainable life, and that's always been important to you. So coming across something very natural was one gateway where you thought, hang on, there is something really beautiful here that we could do something with. What could I do that with? And then actually to decide that you were going to become an artist, because this isn't just a hobby of you collecting bits of palm trees and shells. This is something that actually you have gone quite far with, creating some branding, formalizing a story around this art project, talking to galleries, creating a business. So this is not just a bit of painting on some things that you collected on the beach. So why have you gone that far with it?
Well, initially it was, obviously. But then when, I joined Facebook only when I arrived in Portugal. I didn't have time when I was at work. I was always on LinkedIn. And when I joined Facebook, I also put some of my pictures online, and people said, "Oh, that looks really nice." So I got a lot of support, and I put more and more on, and I painted more and more, and the support was really, really good. And my greatest supporter is my husband, I have to say. But that helps you, with becoming more conscious about that. Maybe you're creating something that other people like as well. And so I'm always like a little bit impatient. This is the only time, and you can see it's all little dots.
And I don't think, let's put it a little bit closer so you can see the intricate nature, which has a lot of similarities to the Aboriginal work.
Yes, it does.
Which is another influence for you. But painstaking amount of patience and work goes into these collections, and they are not just a series of random dots, are they?
No, like for example, this one is very organized as well. You can see it. It's based on an original idea of Aboriginal painting. And this one I call Armadura Amazona, because I think it's like a shield for your body. It really fits nicely to a woman's body. And so I came up with this idea that I want to do a project, Armadura Amazona. So I have Amazons and Art as a project. And I have all these wonderful friends I found here and neighbors who were my models. And I found Monica, who was a star photographer in Miami. And she took these most wonderful photos, and we're going to have our first art book printed soon. It's already online. And it's just fantastic. And my daughter, she developed a logo for me, and she will also work on the website. So everything sort of falls together. And it's just a lot of fun to do this. And I also enjoy looking at them. I like them.
I love them. I love them. And even though you're making it sound like it's serendipity and everything just falls together, actually, it's always amazing how when people, you know, and I bet you have a lot of people that say to me, oh, you're so lucky. You've left now this a 30-year career at the World Health Organization where you did amazing stuff. And tomorrow you're an artist and you already have a collection of stuff. You're so lucky. But then we always say, oh, lucky people work hard. But actually, there is more than this, isn't there? There's more than luck. There's more than hard work. This is a mindset. This is where even though you say, right, well, we came somewhere new and I stumbled across these things, actually your mind was probably very open because you'd come to a new place, a new culture, you were already deciding which way your career was going to go and how you were going to fill your time. So having an open mindset will have helped that journey, but then you must have a growth mindset, which allows you to think that every day you can learn something new, and that one day you can be working on the health and safety policies of big corporate organizations and even and world institutes, but tomorrow your skills can be applied to something very creative. You must really believe that.
Yes, I do. And I've always been a big believer of continuous learning. Continuous learning, I think, in organizations for yourself, I think is essential. When I worked at the WHO, I finalized a PhD in applied psychology because I wanted to go further and further and learn more. And I think this is just my mindset, that for the issues that I'm passionate about, I like to go as far as possible. There are obviously other things I don't like to do, and that's where I probably have a fixed mindset because I also think I cannot do them, like singing. I would never say that I can sing, but people say you can learn singing. So it's probably possible, but I haven't put my interest into singing at all. So my interest just switched over to painting dots and other things. But the initial inspiration, I think, came from my mother as well, because when she was 70, she was a bookkeeper, but when she was 70, and she also lived like very, very strict in a way. But at 70, she started painting, just like out of the blue. There was a course that was offered in her village, and she went with all these women. It was a social event, and my mother also painted like a bookkeeper. Everything had to be precise, very precise. So that's the difference between us. I have half precision. I'm not exactly like her. I don't have the same aspirations, but I like things to look nice and also have a sense for me. So I think there are areas where we have fixed mindsets, where we have open mindsets or growth mindsets, and there are areas where we have a mix, where we have a mix of them.
For sure.
So there, nothing is like black and white.
No, and that's a big part of the message that we want to give across today, actually, isn't it? There isn't one mindset, and you're rarely in that same mindset all the time. So and actually in prep for this conversation, I was looking at it, you know, just Googling around what people say about it. And I was reading about so many different mindsets now. Social mindsets, which actually is one that you've covered in how everyone has come together around this project and how other people have got involved with photography and websites and branding. And that primarily comes because this is a very positive project. and something very enjoyable. And people like to be around and connected to something that is inherently positive.
Yeah.
So all the time we've got lots of different mindsets going on, even things like jealous mindsets and greed mindsets and things that would be perceived to be not so positive. But all of these mindsets we do experience at some time in our lives. And it is quite natural and okay to sometimes feel jealous. You know, I'm quite jealous that you have arrived here, decided to do something like this, and it is all coming together in this way. That's not a negative thing, because my jealousy doesn't mean that I want you to fail, or the negative elements that we associate with that. In fact, it is inspiring me to think, well, why didn't I do something like this? And then in my mind, I think, well, because I'm not creative. And I go through my own cycle, even though I am a very positive person and all about continuous learning and think I can do absolutely anything. When I look at something like this, I immediately think, but I'm not creative in that way. And we know that we have this
fixed mindset.
We have this bouncing around that goes on all the time. And I think one of the lessons that both of us probably want to share is you shouldn't do this bouncing around in isolation, because it is the other people that are around you who will really influence this. And you talked about initially going to Facebook and people giving you a positive reaction to what you were doing.
I think it's both. I think it's the other people, but it has to come from here, from inside you as well. And this just happens, you know, because, for example, I never thought I was going to paint. Really, I did ceramics, I did stone sculpturing, and like random sort of paint jobs, but I never did this kind of work. But maybe it's related also to my journey to Australia, that I was really inspired again by Aboriginal art. So I think it's so beautiful, and the whole culture is beautiful, and the connection to the earth. And I like these earthen colors as well, but I also like other colors. I like bright colors. So I'm still in the experimental stage as well. But everybody can do it. Even you, Nina, you can paint.
The jury will be out on that, but definitely I would give it a go. I would definitely give it a go.
Yeah.
Whether I would take it as far as you're taking it, which is I think really nice to see, is that you are confident enough to create a business out of this, and you've chosen a really magical business name as well. Tell us about that.
Oh, my name, yeah. So since Evelyn Kortum is really my name for my work and my academic work, I thought I'm not going to use the same. I need to find something else. And my husband, he likes astrology, and he said my Chinese zodiac sign is wasserhase, which is water rabbit. And I thought, oh, I like water rabbit. That sounds good. And when I told him that I'm going to be called now water rabbit, wasserhase, he said, what? And other people also said, where did you get that from, and why? Why did you change your name? But it just feels right to me. I don't know. It just comes with what I'm doing, and I think it's like another part of my life. It's a new part. And I would like to honor that new part with a new name, with a new surrounding. And the other part is so I'm using my left and my right brain half much more, the right one much more than before. The left one I always used at work. So I really think that is a good development, actually. It's like Serena Williams, she was talking about evolution, not retirement. You know, you're actually evolving. You have time to evolve into different directions. At work, you're always pressed, always stressed. You don't have time to properly think about things. You think about it at night, and then you sleep badly, then you wake up, you think about your work, but it's still not enough time to I mean, I would have liked to have a longer day at work, really, to do everything properly.
But that's another mindset that we get stuck in, isn't it? Because actually, and I think now younger generations are really trying to embrace this, that work is part of life. It is just part of life. It's not a separate thing. We don't have to dedicate all of our lives to work. We can do many things. And actually our work can take many forms. And it's like the Ikigai principle that I really love, where the Japanese, obviously so good at this sort of stuff, where they separate out what we love in life and then what we get paid for. And making it clear that yes, there are some things that maybe we have to have a mindset on because we have to earn money in today's world, in today's setup. And sometimes we have to do that. We have to focus on making sure we have some money to live. But then that doesn't have to dominate our lives, and we don't have to have this such sharp separation all the time.
I don't quite agree. I think there can be meaningful work.
Of course,
you know,
it doesn't always pay though. Meaningful work doesn't always pay.
Sometimes meaningful work also pays. I mean, I enjoyed a lot of my work at WHO when I could see it had an impact. You know, when I could see I and my collaborators, we could create something sustainable.
Yeah.
Like, for example, we created a healthy workplace model, and it's still being in use. We have PhDs that are written from that model.
Yeah.
The EU, no, not the EU, Ireland, Health Ireland picked it up to implement it in their government structures. And there is an award, and you know, it's like it's taking up its own life. And when I see things like that, I'm really, really, really happy. And I think it was meaningful what I spent my time on.
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
But not everybody might find themselves in those situations where there were, I mean, it is about a mindset again, because of course we can find something meaningful in everything that we do. But some people just have to be at the checkout or be in the Amazon warehouse and maybe feeling stuck and think, well, what is my influence on the world? Where is my moment of meaning? Where is my moment of creativity? But it actually can come, and it can come in so many different ways. And typically in a lot of these jobs, it is the people that you are working with who will help bring some meaning to those situations
as
as well. And this is all just about mindsets. So hopefully today,
and opportunity, I have to say.
Wow, bringing opportunity in is a whole new podcast.
For next time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I hope that Evelyn has inspired you today with her words and her demonstration of how a growth mindset can really take you to places that you'd never imagined. And if you would like to follow her work, where can people find you?
Well, I'm going to have a website, wasserhase .com, wasserhase.com. My daughter is going to do that. And I'm also on Instagram under that name, and also on Facebook. And so we can have a look there.
We'll attach these links to the podcast notes. So it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, for me as well. Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll check in sometime later to see how this is going.
Yeah, absolutely. With pleasure. Thank you.